it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. First things first, I want to apologize for the weird lighting. It looks really weird to me in the viewfinder, so I'm assuming it looks really weird to you. I didn't plan the time of day to film this very well, so I kind of have the blinds rigged. Please forgive me. I'll be better in the future. I just feel like this is just not cute. Oh well. Today's the day that I'm going to be telling you all of the books that I read, all the TV shows that I watched, and all the movies that I saw in February. So let's just go ahead and get right on into it. So the first book that I read in February was How to Love by Kerri Cotugno. This book is a dual timeline book in that we follow our main character, Rena, when she is 16 and then a couple years later when she is 18. And in the 16-year-old timeline, she meets this boy named Sawyer and it's really her first relationship. She falls very head over heels in love with this guy and then unexpectedly she gets pregnant, and on the same day she finds this out, she also finds out that Sawyer mysteriously vanished. He just ends up leaving town with no real rhyme or reason. Flash forward to the present day timeline when she is 18. She is now a freshman in college, and Sawyer just kind of randomly shows back up in the picture, having to deal with the infliction of letting him be in his daughter's life and letting him be in her life, but also coming to terms with why he left and finding out why he left in the first place. This is the first book I've ever read by Kerri Cotugno, and I actually loved this book. I think I read this book in one day. I was just completely engrossed in it. I was so attached to their storylines. I felt so much connection to their storylines. I felt so much empathy towards them. Like I really wanted them to work, to have a functional family unit for their daughter. Something I'd never read before. I've never read a book like this, and I really liked the characters. I liked the romance. I obviously gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It's probably one of my favorite contemporary romances that I've ever read. So after that, I DNF'd 2 books. The first book that I DNF'd was Hunting Prince Dracula by Kerri Maniscalco. I feel like y'all are not surprised about this one. This is a book that I was reading for the YA BookTube Awards. Had this book not been nominated, had this whole thing not been a part of an award show that I was co-judging, I would have DNF'd the first book. The first time the library took it away from me. It should have been a sign. This one I had listened to an audio and I just tried and tried to finish it, and there came a point, and it was at the end of the novel when I was in the climax of the story. I had about an hour and a half of the audiobook left, and I realized that I just didn't care. We're just about to figure out the reveal for the story, who had been committing all these murders. I didn't care. It's like when you realize that your main character's lives are at stake and you're about to get the biggest reveal of the book and you don't care, it's probably a sign that you should not read the book any longer. I do not like the main character. I do not like the writing style. I do not like how the main character has no friends that are female. There were some female friends introduced to her in this book. However, they all mysteriously didn't work out. I won't say why the friendships didn't work out because I feel like that's spoiler, but none of the female friendships that were introduced in this book ended up working out for reasons that I just did not like. I did feel like I could rate this book because I had listened to probably more than 90% of it, so I ended up giving this one a 1 out of 5 stars. The next book that I DNF'd was also a book for the YA BookTube Awards, and that was Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I got pretty far. I got a lot further than I thought I was going to. I talked about these books in my TBR video. I was very apprehensive of this book because I had heard from so many other reviewers that this book is very flowery, that like her writing style in general is very flowery, and that she's also a very character-focused author. 2 things that there is no issue with. Those are 2 things that I personally don't like. I need a really I plot. I have very poor attention skills, and if there's not something that's gripping me and driving me to read the book, then I'm not gonna read it. I don't have the mental capacity to read something that's not stimulating. I DNF'd this book at page 234. I was 43% through the book and nothing had happened. 243 pages. We were almost halfway through the book and nothing was happening. It was just so much backstory and like, let's watch Laszlo go through his daily routine 800 times and let's watch him cross a desert for 9 months. The other main character, who I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to spoil the other point of view for you, because I do feel like that was a little bit of an intriguing thing. Like once we got that perspective, I was like, ooh, I'm interested. This is really cool. Like we're finally learning more about this world. And when the 2 point of views were about to converge, like they were so close to being in the same space, still nothing was happening. And it was just very frustrating because I feel like in 234 pages, something plot-wise should have happened. The writing was not as bad as I expected it to be. I didn't find it to be as hard to get into or as difficult to understand as I was expecting. So it was much more approachable than what I had thought. But it was boring. This is something that I might pick up in the future to finish. I just needed a break from it because I was not enjoying myself. I didn't want to pick it up anymore. Between that and reading Hunting Prince Dracula, I had no book that I was enjoying at the moment, and it was making my reading process, my whole experience, awful. As of right now, I have set it aside. So then after that, we had the Contemporary-a-thon, which is a readathon that I participated in this month. I did a whole vlog video for it, so I will link that on the screen if you want to watch my vlog. The first book that I picked up was Wicked Sexy Liar by Christina Lauren. This is the final book in the Wild Seasons series. I loved this book just as much as the other three. I really enjoyed the couple in this book. You really get to see a couple here who have both been through very serious relationships and who have both had very traumatic breakups and are trying to cope with and deal with the sense of moving on to a new relationship. I don't feel like we get a lot of books that focus on the second relationship and learning to love again. It was nice to read a book about two characters who were emotionally impacted by a terrible breakup, how they were learning to become more comfortable with themselves and to confront their own demons and confront their own issues while also pursuing another relationship and pursuing somebody else who might actually be better for them and they never even realized it. I really enjoyed London and Luke's story. I really liked how they tied back into the other couples because they're not one of the main couples who went to Vegas in the first book. London was such an independent character. She was really someone who was on her own and doing her own thing and being self-sufficient and totally fine with it. Definitely going to be looking for more Christina Lauren books in the future. And then the next book that I finished for the Contemporary-a-thon was Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. To be honest, I really had no inclination to read this book. I wasn't really interested in it until all of the glowing reviews for the movie. So many people have seen early screenings of this movie and have said the most wonderful, positive things about it, and I was like, I want to go see that movie now. Like, I'm totally interested. But I have to read the book first. I really enjoyed the audio. I thought it was very well done. The narrator did a great job. I feel like it totally brought the story to life. This book is about a boy in high school. His name is Simon and he is gay, but he is not out yet. He meets another boy on Tinder? No, Tumblr. Not the same thing. They start exchanging emails and the other boy is also gay, but he's also not out of the closet. So they have this whole romance online through emails and you get to see their emails and see how their relationship buds and how it blossoms, and it's so sweet and adorable. I also really liked how Simon had this really great group of friends that were external to the romance, so it wasn't like because he was dating somebody that he had this group of friends. It's a very normalized high school experience, and I don't feel like you read a lot of like the normalization of high school because they expect that you've experienced it and so they don't need to write in things like classes and tests and studying. But I liked how Becky included all those things that made it much more realistic. Same with the inclusion of the parents. The parents were present characters in this book. In the end, I end up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it and I can't wait to see the movie. And then the final book that I read, Amour by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I have been wanting to read this book for years now. It's about a young girl who moves across the country from Ohio to Vegas to audition for a show that is very much like Cirque du Soleil. I just really enjoyed this. I loved the setting of them being in Vegas. They meets a boy in Vegas at a club. Turns out that Nick is from this really large Russian family. He has all these siblings. The siblings are all very present in the story, and I really liked seeing all the different dynamics between his siblings because many of them are a lot younger than him. So he also had this parental role over them. I loved Thora and Nick's relationship. It was so much more supportive. Not to say that new adult always has problematic relationships, but there are usually an aspect or a facet of the relationship that's always a little questionable. But I felt like this book really had a good, supportive, solid romance. The two characters were very supportive of each other and of their dreams and always pushed the other to be the best and to succeed and always to put their dreams first. And I just really liked how supportive and like grounded these two characters were. I finished this and I was just like so giddy that I went back and like read sections again because it made me so happy. So in the end, I ended up giving this one a 5 out of 5 stars as well. I read a lot of contemporary, a lot of romance, which is not typically the genre that I go for, but it was what I was in the mood for this month, and I enjoyed all of them. Aside from those DNFs that we're not going to focus on today. Let's go ahead and talk about the movies that I saw this month. I saw one movie in theaters and then one movie that was a new release in the fall. One that I saw in theaters was 50 Shades Freed, which is the third movie in the 50 Shades franchise, and I went to see this with one of my really good friends. We've seen the other ones together. I don't really know how I feel about this movie. Found it entertaining, yes, but I also felt like a lot of the book was missing. I don't remember the book very well. I've read it many years ago, but I felt like there were a lot of things that were taken out of the book, and then the movie just focused on one specific storyline because maybe it was the most interesting, and then the ending was very unfulfilling for me personally. I felt like it was kind of abrupt. I would have liked to see a little bit more resolution. I would have liked to see the in-between, because there's like an epilogue scene that takes place many years later, and I don't know if that's how the book is written too. I can't remember. I would have liked to see some of that time in between that we didn't get. The ending scene as a finale was kind of unfulfilling and made me feel a little like I kind of want a fourth movie. For the most of it in general, I was pretty entertained. I was definitely cracking jokes about it throughout, and my friend, who I think enjoys it much more than I do, didn't find all my jokes to be quite as funny. So then the other movie that I saw this month was Coco. I finally saw Coco. It came out on DVD, so I rented it on iTunes, and I had it for 48 hours and I watched it 3 times. This movie is one of the most heartwarming, cutest things that I have ever seen. I feel like this is very distracting. Can I fix it? Is that better? I don't know. So anyway, Coco. Also, one of the most visually stunning movies I've ever seen. The animation is incredible. Pixar is like outdoing themselves. It has some of the most technical, advanced animation that Pixar has ever done. Like when Miguel is playing the guitar, he's actually playing the real life notes that you would play on a real guitar. So he's actually playing the music, and just like the intricacy of working the fingers with the chords. I was so impressed. Aside from like the stunning visual quality of the movie, I loved Hector. He was one of my favorite characters. He was so funny, and I liked the dog Dante too. My camera overheated, so who knows what I was saying. Coco, I loved it. 2 thumbs up, A+. Go watch it. Oh, that's lovely. Let's just go a little off center from that, shall we? I also watched 2 TV shows this month. The first one was the final season of Bones. The final season premiered last spring. I never watched it, and I felt bad about that. So for some reason this month I was just like, you know what I need to do? I need to finish Bones. So I did. It was just like any other season of Bones. I really liked the characters. I really liked the storylines. We got to see some things that have been happening in other seasons finally come to fruition. I also was a little unfulfilled with the explanation of the Gormagan. Gormagan? I think it's pronounced Gormagan. This is a case that is spanning the length of Bones. It happens very on in the early seasons, and every couple seasons they'll have like a couple episode arc relating to it again. They bring the Gormagan back into play in the final season. All has to tie into one of the characters on the show as well. And while we get resolution for that character, I did not like the resolution for the actual case. Like, I don't feel like we got the finale that the Gormagan deserved. I just don't feel like, other than this one character who was involved in it, who had a nice resolution, I don't feel like anything else in the case was really resolved. And that was something that I was really looking forward to seeing in this season, because it's something we've been following since the very beginning of the show. So that was a little bit of a letdown, but I did really like seeing where all the characters ended up at the end of the season. But in the end, I'm very happy that I finally went back and watched the final season of the show. Kind of sad that Bones is now officially over. And the other series that I watched was the second half of Fuller House. They released season 3 in 2 parts, part A and part B. I watched part B this month. As I say with every other season of Fuller House that I watch, it was just the most cheesy, perfect comedy sitcom that's the same thing that I have seen. If you like Full House and you like the cheese and the corn that comes with Full House, then I think you will like Fuller House. It embodies Full House in a very nice way. They made some proclamations about the old original cast, like where their lives are going. It seems like we're gonna have a lot more cameos from the old cast moving forward because a lot of them have new life paths and it involves the main cast of Fuller House, and I'm really excited about it. Can't wait for season 4. I can't sit in the middle because that's just great. So that is it. That's everything that I watched and read in the month of February. I would love to know what you guys watched and read this past month. Please tell me in the comments down below. I'm so sorry that the lighting in this video is atrocious. I will not do this to you again. Thank you guys so much for watching. What is my outro? Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will talk to you very soon. That sounds right. Bye!